Cheerio. So, I made this Donna Adelson Trial 6 a day video, and I left a whole bunch of stuff out, so I decided to just delete it and start over. I watched the video today on Lawyer Lee, I believe. She's a Southern attorney. She's got awesome blonde hair, and it does look sort of natural, just like Donna's attorney, who I'll get to in a moment. But I watched her actually the first day, just for a few minutes, and she wouldn't shut up. She kept talking, and I wanted to see the trial. Well, I guess someone got to her. I watched her, okay, and then I watched her post-trial a little bit yesterday, and what she did was she paused during the transcripts and then read the transcripts, because that was my problem. I couldn't understand them, and if I'm trying to do something, which I am still trying to do something, I can't sit and read the transcripts. And so I ended up not doing a lot because I was reading the transcripts. So I went to her today so she would read me the transcripts. And I ended up liking it because when she talked this time, she hit pause. And, you know, there's always those breaks in the lunch breaks, so you get quite caught up. No offense to Carl Steinbeck. One thing I wanted to say, and I forgot to say the other day, and I promise I'll get to the point. When they're talking about encodes, and remember, Katie gets very frustrated, and she flat out says, I'm sick of talking in code. Marijuana used to be illegal in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Excuse me. And the guy I used to buy it from, if you wanted some, you asked for tickets. See, my cat is always wants to be my friend when I don't want to be her. Well, not necessarily, but when I'm doing something. When I want attention from her, oh no, you can't find her at all. Excuse me again. So, they were tickets. If you wanted something, you asked for tickets. And you either wanted just general admission, or you wanted front row seats, which was the middle level of marijuana, or you wanted premium, you know, the balcony. You're sitting up there next to Meghan Markle watching her dance to Beyonce. And I used to think, and this was 25 years ago, 30 maybe, I used to think, Rick, if the police are watching you the way you think they are, they've figured out your little code system, you moron. Just like in this case, this TV's gonna cost $5, and Wendy, and Charlie's joke, I figured a TV was cheaper than getting her a hitman. Goodness, this family made millions and millions of dollars, but they're about stupid as heck. My goodness. So, Donna's a defense attorney. I may have said a lot of this before. Brain tumor. She comes across as a female dog. Oh my goodness. She's a little bit arrogant. I think it's odd that she talks about how terrible the murder of Professor Markel was. I think, or she calls him Danny. He was a professor. Oh, look at that. He was a professor. You know, show the man some respect. But I did find out, so when she was a judge, she got caught trying to hook up her boyfriend's son. I don't know what the case was about. But so instead of firing her, they allowed her to resign, of course, using this whole disability thing. So, you know, Donna, don't forget to remind me about the whole Vietnam visa thing. When Sanford was on the stand all day yesterday, and then he was on the stand again today. At the end of his testimony, so I think Judge Everett has quite a little sense of humor. At the end of his testimony, they asked the prosecution, can we release him from having to testify, or does he need to remain available? He does live in Tallahassee. And Georgia said, no, we need to, let him stay. And this happened outside of the jury. And the judge, but it was time for him to go. It was lunch. And the judge looked at Pat Sanford and he said, you better get out of here while you can, or something along those lines. And of course, everyone laughed. It was quite cute. But at the end of Pat Sanford's cross-examination today, he had a little smirk or a smile on his face like, you didn't get me. You know, it was obvious he was with the FBI. But there was another one. I think it was the guy with the gray hair, the forensic. He looked at the emails and the text and things. It was crystal clear he was testifying for the state. Not even a shadow of a doubt. Again today, the defense took lots of breaks. Like Mark Dolan says, da-da-da-da-da. They're not ready. This is your freaking job. You're each being paid $1 million, at least, for this job. You need to be prepared for everything. Just like Georgia's always ready, well, she has been, with her objections and stuff. You have to know. And these attorneys never ask a question that they don't know the answer to. You know, at one point, Donna's defense attorney asked Sanford, he says, so there's no extradition in Vietnam. Just chill out. It's a car door. Piper's such a wimp. He asked Sanford, he said, so Vietnam, they don't always not extradite, do they? And Pat's like, I have no idea. I call him Pat like he's my best friend. Pat Sanford's like, oh, I don't really know. And he said, well, you do know that Vietnam does extradite for if someone has been charged in murder cases, don't you? And Pat Sanford's like, I don't have any idea. And that's how he ended it, the defense attorney. Okay, well, we don't have any idea either. Maybe Vietnam extradites in cases of murder. Maybe they don't. So that was well done by the defense attorney because he put some reasonable doubt in someone's mind. However, I think it would be very, very difficult to have that thing be your reasonable doubt. Donna continued to not put on her headphones. So my girl Harper Lee said that made her look a little bit old. You know, I think Donna doesn't want to. I don't think she wants it more clear in her ears at the horrible, horrible things she did. She doesn't want to hear the bump better. She doesn't want to hear it more clearly when her son and her husband are, figuring out plans and trying, Katie's lucky that Charlie wasn't planning her death as much as she was squeezing him for cash. But so when they arrested Donna that night at the airport, they were able to seize her phone and they cell-brighted it. That's when you copy the phone. They also got a search warrant for the house, or for their condo. And in their condo, Donna had her journals, like a daytimer sort of thing. And of course she had her journals for the next year. And first off, she has horrendous handwriting. Do they still teach cursive in schools? Now, my boy went to a private school, and they did teach cursive. He's going to 9th grade now. Bishop O'Connell, yay, go Team Knights. But she writes as if she's never taught proper printing. I still remember every year of my teachers in elementary school. I had a man teacher for 5th grade, Mr. Woods. Do you remember all your teachers? I had one teacher twice, but she got married. I had her for 1st grades as Mrs. Beatson, and then I had her for 3rd grade as Mrs. Boggs. That was kind of cool. Hey, in 2nd grade, I had Mrs. Burns. And teachers were still allowed to spank kids in school. And Mrs. Boggs was giant, and she could have been on my 300-pound life. And I can remember I got a spanking one time, and I barely fit on her lap. And then I can remember going over to the corner with my book and just crying and crying. But I was more upset because my parents were going to be ticked off at me. What did I do to get a spanking? Oh, my goodness, I need to stop. But in Donna's journal, or her daytimer, she had Dan's license plate. Isn't that weird? Now, I have a personalized license plate, so I know mine. But does anyone else have their license plates written down? But do you have your son-in-law's license plate written down? Or your brother's license plate written down? Well, when they got all Donna's stuff from her phone and her computers, Donna made a really big deal about the visas. And if I had producers and things, I could tell you what date I'll tell you what. She applied 22 days before her flight took off. Well, her flight did take off, but before she hoped to be sitting in first class on that flight. The very first response she received from Vietnam, or the Vietnam visa people, was, "We want to let you know there is no way anyone else will see the communication between us. This is an encrypted line." Well, encrypted means that no one else can see it. You can't wiretap it, anything. So Donna's doing what she needs to do. She uses the hotel as the address for her visa. It's 9 days prior to her flight, and she sends them an email or however they're communicating through this encrypted space or line. And she says, "Hey, my flight leaves in 9 days. Oh, it must have been 10 days. And I am freaking out. What is going on with my visa?" And they write her back and say, "Do not worry. Your visa will be issued 9 hours prior to your flight. You have absolutely nothing to worry about." And sure enough, it was issued 9 hours prior to her flight that she didn't get to fly on. I'll say it again. Harvey took her necklace off, and he kissed her goodbye, and he watched her go away with the police, and I would have looked at the gate agent and said, "Oh, I'm still boarding the plane." Now, they had to wait to make sure that their luggage wasn't on the flight. However, the FBI may have got with the airline in the first place and said, "When you get the luggage for the Adelsons, don't board it, because you have to fly with your luggage. You cannot allow luggage to fly if the person's not on the airplane, because someone may put a BOMB on the airplane, and we definitely do not want that." In the text that they were able to get from Donna's cell phone, she's talking to Wendy, and this is after Charlie's conviction. And one thing is, Wendy does say, "Call me if you need to." So, Donna was complaining to everyone that Wendy wouldn't talk to her. Well, that wasn't true. Wendy was talking to her. But Donna writes to Wendy, "Your brother protected you for all these years." And at this point, they are assuming that their phones and everything is being looked at. So they're writing this, assuming the police are looking at it. And you think about this. If Wendy truly were innocent, Dan died. He was shot on a Friday. He died on a Saturday. And in Jewish tradition, you're buried the very next day. Do you know they also put black towels or black sheets over the mirrors in the house? And that's called something. Holding Shiva or something. If you're Jewish, tell me below. And by Monday, Wendy and her children were in the minivan driving to South Florida. Very quick, isn't it? I mean, how was she able to pack her entire house? She rented a 3-bedroom home. How was she able to pack that up so quickly? Wow. She must have stayed up all night. Then she changed her children's names. She cut off contact with the Markels. So, let's say you don't do this. Please, stop. It goes right to my thing. So let's say you really didn't have anything to do with this. You don't cut off, you stay communication with the Markels. You ask them, "Hey, can the boys come down and spend a week with you, or come up and spend a week with you every summer? Let's do Christmases." You absolutely, the last thing you do is cut off contact. Let's say you want to change their names just so it's easier, so your name's the same, so you can be like, "I'm Sussex now." Although that's a tough one. You would explain it to Ruth and Phil. You would say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disrespect Danny, But however, I have made their middle names Markel. So if they get older, if they want to change their name back, which is a load of garbage, but she could at least done that. But she didn't do anything. She cut everyone off. So that, to me, that's such proof of guilt. That sending Charlie a text, "This is so sweet," and then deleting it. Why would you delete a text where you're telling someone this is sweet? Okay. Then we get to the jail daughters. The first one, I'm taking a guess only by the crimes and the time she had spent in jail. She's maybe 30 years old. She was a black woman. I don't know how literate she was, and I'm not saying that with any condemnation. She answered every question with as few words as possible. Yes, no. I do not even remember if she said yes, ma'am. But, when she talked to these attorneys, it was 4 years ago. And so today, Donna's attorneys say, "Well, how many investigators did you meet with? You said one today. And the last time we spoke to you, you told us it was two." They'd spoken to her 2 weeks ago. And she's like, "Well, whatever it says in there is whatever is correct." She wasn't trying to lie. It had been 4 stinking years. I think she came across totally credible. She's facing 15 years on a felony and 5 years on a felony. Different counties. They can make them concurrent. And of course, they promised her nothing. Well, if Donna's convicted, I guarantee they'll be concurrent and they'll take care of her. This is a huge case and a really big deal to Leon County. Now, the second woman, she looked like she was 40 or 45. White woman, long brown hair, junkie. Because of the first testimony she had given, because of this, what she had said, she hadn't even testified yet. She was facing 15 years, and they let her out with time served. 15 years. But because you told us all this about Donna, we're going to let you go, and we're not even going to make sure you show up to testify. But you're on parole, and she's a drug addict, and she had 27 crimes where she lied, but she was a junkie. She didn't say what type of drug. She was a thin little woman. I don't know, is that heroin? I'm not really sure. But, so she's released with that. She never ever checked in with her parole officer. And you have to check in, I believe, within 7 days. I'm just going to say that from what I've seen on courts and things. Which means she never drug tested. The parole people find her, and my guess is, they put a warrant out for her arrest at day 7 immediately, and they catch her. The cops know where junkies and stuff hang out. So what do you know? She's back in the Leon County jail. Well, now we know for sure. Or she may have been back in whatever county she had been in, their jail. Well, now we know for sure she's going to testify. Well, the defense is able to bring out, and for the most part, this woman targeted Donna. She had heard about this case. Like I said, it was a really big deal in Florida. She'd heard about this case. Luck of the draw, she gets put in the same pod as Donna and goes to Donna and starts asking questions. She's no stupid. She's not stupid. She's been through the system quite a bit. So what does Donna do? Brilliant Donna, who has never tried to control anyone's life. Never, ever, ever. She's just a loving mother, very supportive. She writes a script for these two women. Oh my goodness. What does she say that Katie does? Well, Katie goes to Charlie's house on the night of the extortion, or the night of the murder, and says, "Give me all this money. I don't need you to take me out to fancy dinners anymore. now that you're giving me $1/3 of the $1,000,000, I can take myself out to fancy dinners. That's what she wrote as part of the script. Oh, my goodness. When Donna gets to prison, wherever she goes, they're going to make a lot of fun of her. They're like, girlfriend. I think that Donna needs to come in one day to court with the cornrows. I may have already said that. But wouldn't that just... Everyone would 100% do a double take. Let me see. Nope, that was it. About her friends that she made in jail. They were talking about using WhatsApp, not her jail friends. Who was? Donna and someone else. I never even heard of WhatsApp. See, I'm completely out of the loop. And then what happened at the end of the day today? The prosecution rest. Goodness. So, took them 6 days. I felt like they could have almost rested after the second or third day. We'll see. Apparently there's one juror. The juror average is 30 and 40. There's one juror that's taking tons of notes, and old John Steinbeck, not the one who wrote Of Mice and Men, he's not totally around anymore, calls her the note taker. Hey, Pipes. So if you're still watching right now, I'm shocked. Well, hold on. I don't know what the defense is going to do. Half the witnesses, they were like, no questions. They still had to ask for time every time. They still had to do it today. What are they going to do? They have an expert witness coming in from California. What's that person going to expert on? That Donna believed her son? Oh, goodness. Okay, now onto it. If you're still watching, I'm shocked. I'm humbled. Thank you. Truly. Hook me up. Hit like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. You can have more funny Meredith. God bless you. God bless this America. Toodaloo.